Hello and welcome to Turning Lemons into Lemonade. As you know, everyone has experienced what we would all refer to as lemons. The difference is what we do with those lemons. Recently, a study was performed over a time period asking 400 US based CEOs how they find time to strategize about the forces of disruption and innovation. And 85% of them said they don't have the right amount of time. And nearly 40% assess their approach to innovation as unpredictable. They have silos, and often they outsource them even if they have an innovation strategy at all. So this has helped support my phrase, shift happens. And when we talk about shift happens, we want to talk about finding the lemons in products, in production, in people, in processes, all so we can make a profit. Remember, one person's lemon is someone else's lemonade. The trick is for you to understand the difference and how to monetize the results of that discovery. A little bit about our company. We work with some of the biggest names, some of them that you would recognize on a daily basis, and others that are emerging to become market leaders. Anyone from Foxwoods Casino, the largest casino in the world, to Kmart, to BASF, to Audi, to Helene Curtis, to American Family Insurance, Red Lobster, McDonald's, and others. So we have the credentials. And what I mean by the credentials is these companies have all engaged us in one form or another to work with them to make sure that their products and services are no longer considered lemons, but do deliver lemonade. Remember that wealth is not gained from what you know. Wealth is gained because you have discovered something no one else knows. And the simplification of that is see a need, fill a need. And to do that, you need to listen, you need to engage, you need to inspire, you need to respond, and you need to offer a value proposition that makes it worthwhile to do business with you. So there is a certain criteria that we've developed over the years, and it's really quite simple. Number one, it's not creative unless it sells. Look, everyone lays an egg. Everyone comes up with a product or service that they think is going to be a grand slam home run, and it falls short. It's a dead. Companies successful as Apple have had products that didn't make it off the shelves. They make other changes that don't get quick consumer acceptance, but over the years, they've learned how to refine that process, and they have fewer lemons and come out with more lemonade. In today's market, every product and service should enrich lives or, more importantly, completely solve a problem. And what I mean by that is it doesn't require lots of other components, lots of other tools. You are solving the problem with your solution, and you're not relying on many resources. And once you see that you can solve the problem using very few resources, you seize the opportunity and you monetize the results. Remember, customers and companies pay for results. If you join Weight Watchers, they don't say we're going to make you feel better or look better. They are going to have a quantifiable suggestion that you're going to lose weight, and the scale will be able to define how much weight you've lost. So as you look at the good and bad of turning lemons into lemonade, you've got to remember that in doing that, you're not going to produce negative side effects. And the negative side effects often mean that it's a solution few people will find. It's implementable at the lowest level and acceptable at the highest level. Often I say, get the CEO or senior management buy-in first, and then it's easier to implement at the lowest level. If you start at the lowest level, you can push that up the ladder, but it's much easier to let it roll down from the top. Both work. I often point out to the metrics or the culture of the organization on whether you're going to push up from the lowest level to the highest level or roll down from the highest level to the lowest level. Either way, you've got to get engagement and acceptance on both sides. And I do that by breaking the rules. And I break the rules by saying, what's in it for me? And to remind me of what's in it for me, I was looking for a logo, a symbol, something that I could use to develop it. And I realized that the Wi-Fi, the connectivity symbol, the antenna broadcasting out, was the perfect example for me of what's in it for me. And so it's W-I, I to the second power, FM. What's in it for me? At 7 years old, I learned how to make lemonade from lemons. I went to my parents and I asked them for an allowance. My mother said, go talk to your father. I went to my father. My father's response was, go talk to your mother. It was at that point that I realized my first business tenet, which I haven't violated since, get all the decision makers in the room. That's right. Get everybody in the room at the same time, because that's the only way a decision's going to be made. My father suggested I mow the yard. My mother suggested that I walk the dog and wash the car. Both of them suggested that I open up a lemonade stand. I went outside and I saw lemonade stand after lemonade stand up and down the streets. And I quickly realized that there was a tremendous amount of competition to a limited number of customers. The customers being those people that were arriving home from work or going to work. I went back, talked to my mother and said, when are you going to be going to Shoppers World, which was somewhat of a precursor to a Costco's or a Sam's Club? She said she was going later in the afternoon, and I asked if I could join her. She said, it'll be a few hours, but certainly. I said, well, I'll be in my room. Call me when you're ready to go. And in my room, I made a list of those things that made up a lemonade stand. Lemon, sugar, water, perhaps lemonade mix instead of lemons, cups, signage, and that was kind of it. I went with my mother to Shoppers World and I priced out bulk lemonade. I priced out the bulk lemonade because I realized that the bulk lemonade would be easier to handle, did not have an expiration, wouldn't get moldy. I didn't have to squeeze and feel each lemon to see whether they were juicy or not. And I would get a consistent product. I priced out bulk sugar, bulk paper cups. I also priced out bulk container bags, like Ziploc bags. I went to my mother. I asked if she would advance the money for one bag of sugar, one large bowl, I guess I would call it, or jar of lemonade mix, a stack of cups. I went home and I created a lemonade kit. that evening, I went door to door, offering to sell the lemonade kit to the mothers that had children with their lemonade stand. Remember, I wasn't going to compete with them because some of them had elaborate lemonade stands. They'd set up tables and chairs in floral patterns, decorative glasses, cookies, you name it. And it was here that I thought of my first selling motto: be best at what you do, or sell to those that are. And if you looked at the clients, the customers that I do work with, they're the best at what they do. And they often outsource. They often look for people such as myself to be a provider of some of those services. Now, you can't predict what's going on because there's uncertainty in prediction. But I'll tell you this. I clearly discovered the need by coming up with the lemonade kit. I came up with a fair price. I explained how many servings they would be able to get out of the kit and showed them how to monetize the investment of the kit versus the ROI, or the returns on that investment, when they were selling the glasses of lemonade. Not only did it work, not only did I only go out to service my clients late in the afternoon or early evening, but at the end of the summer, I had $357 in the bank. I turned uncertainty, lemons, into lemonade supplier. When you look at the word innovation for a moment, you see all the words that can be made up using the various letters. This is where I started to think about the old adage of think outside the box. And I started to realize that the problem itself was inside the box, not outside the box. And this is why so many solutions were flawed. They had not taken into consideration what was going on and inside the box. So my art department and I sat down and we created a roadmap. And the roadmap started to detail all the what if, what's next, why nots on the road to bright ideas. We discussed the standard operating procedure culture. We discussed the people that believed they did not need to innovate. We started to recognize that business as usual was the standard culture. But we also saw that if you could get by all those obstacles, all those roadblocks, all those issues, there was no one at the top of the hill. The bright idea would be something you'd own. The bright idea was something that you could monetize. And the bright idea became the way that we started turning lemons into lemonade on a bigger scope and scale. In college, I had gone to law school, and in the law school, there were study groups. And in one of the study groups was a gentleman who had a part-time job as an insurance adjuster for the railroad. Often the railroad would lose a railroad car by pushing it off to the siding. Another car would get in front of it, and so forth. And at the time, they were tracking the cars by the serial number, and the serial number was put on a clipboard. Obviously not the best way. Certainly not the way it's done today, but the good news for me was they had lost this railroad car, and my friend wanted to go over and settle up the claim. A railroad car is about 4 foot 8 inches wide and anywhere from 20 feet high to over 40 feet long. The cubic volume of a railroad car is huge. When we got there and cracked it open, what we found was industrial-sized cans of Chef Boyardee spaghetti sauce. Looking at this enormous amount of spaghetti sauce, I turned to my friend and I said, now what? He says, well, we're going to write him a check, and then I'm going to try to liquidate the railroad sauce, the spaghetti sauce. How much would you take for it right now? I asked. He said, this minute, this moment in time, 104 degrees in the shade, I'll take $5,000. I said, so, to who? I said, to me. He said, what are you going to do with all that spaghetti sauce? I said, I have no idea. Now, while you're smiling and laughing at what appeared to be my zealous stupidity, think about what would you do with a railroad car filled with spaghetti sauce? Who would you sell it to? Who could use it? So I started making a list when I got home of the big, or what I referred to as heavy users. Institutions. Jails. Military bases. Universities. I started making my calls on Monday. Turns out that I had a buyer. And the buyer was an Air Force base. And the buyer quoted me a price where I would have made in excess of $30,000 profit. We agreed on the price. We agreed on the terms. And then he asked me for my government supplier number, my GSI. I didn't have one. To fill out the form, to send it in, took a lot of time. So my big sale went away. Now, because of our limited time today, I'm hoping you've sat and thought about what you would do with your Chef Boyardee spaghetti sauce, and I'll get back to a little later. Because nothing changes if nothing changes. Remember, the way to turn lemons into lemonade is to be able to see the change that takes place. Like the railroad car filled with spaghetti sauce, what did I see that many of you may not be seeing as you listen to me today? Remember, status quo no longer works. Everything is changing. And when I say everything is changing, it is as simple as the light bulb. It's as simple as where we went from Edison to today's light bulbs that will last more than a lifetime. So there's a change model that I've created on turning lemons into lemonades. Number one, assess the innovativeness of the problem and the potential solution. Plan how you're going to sell someone or an organization on accepting change, because often you've got great ideas, but they don't want to accept the change that is involved. If you can do that, then you map the journey. Remember, I've mapped the journey to bright ideas, so I know what those obstacles are. I then try to systematize the innovation so that the fewest number of people are involved with the greatest amount of ROI. And then I always measure and manage the success by being objective. For instance, I could have consigned that product to someone else, taken a small commission, and been done with it. I could have consigned the product, that is the spaghetti sauce, to someone else and offered to do a 30-70 split, or a 60-40 split, or a 50-50 split. But for the moment, I didn't need a partner, and I felt I could come up with my own solution. Have you come up with one? Have you put your thinking cap on to come up with a solution for what you're going to do with a railroad car filled with spaghetti sauce? You've got to think inside the box. And to do that, you investigate, you innovate, and you initiate. 3D thinking has a very simple principle. You meet outside the box, but you think inside the box. And 3D refers to depth, determination, and distance. In that depth is the identification, the investigation, and the ideation of the idea. Once you understand how you're going to take that idea and monetize it, you then look outside to see if there's a marketplace. Let me give you a real world example. Toyota, one of my long-standing clients, wanted to do a promotion for their used car salesman. They wanted to give away Rolex Submariner watches. But their budget was a Timex budget, not a Rolex budget. Now, it's not exciting to give a car salesman a Timex watch. Clearly, it's exciting to give a used car salesman a Rolex watch. But they had a Timex budget. Then I listened to myself. I went inside the box, and I realized that we could get used Rolexes for the used car salesman, buy them at a fraction of the cost within the Timex budget, and make money. Here's the perfect example of mixing what you know, what you want to know, and what you hope to know in the equation. Because at the end of the day, I took the Timex concept of money and applied it to the Rolex concept of brand identification and made a huge sale to Toyota. Remember, the real trend today is disruption, and I mean disruption on all levels. Turning lemons into lemonades mean that you have to have a disruptive community such as Uber created, such as Airbnb created, such as Netflix created, such as the Dollar Shave Club created. And let me stop right there. Dollar Shave Club was disrupting the way Gillette sold razors and razor blades. Gillette realized that they couldn't win, came to the Dollar Shave Club and bought them for $1 billion. That's B with a B. That's billion with a B. Think about it. They were disruptive, and they turned their idea into a wonderful payout. Don't forget the Golden State Warriors, who drove ticket sales and participation because of their heavy social media exposure. Build an active community, and within the community, you will hear someone discuss their lemons and give you the opportunity to turn them into lemonade. I know you're going to expect resistance. That's part of the change model. But remember the 80-20 rule. 80% of the ideas are not going to be saleable, but the 20% are big enough and strong enough and profitable enough to pay for the 80 that didn't work. Explain the rationale for the change. Explain your opening moves to your customer or client. And focus on their issues. I refer to them as the me issues. Remember what's in it for me. Once you understand what's in it for me issues, you can then monetize the success. Along the way, you're going to have problems. Along the way, you're going to hit roadblocks. So when I am talking to my client, my customer, I constantly tell them to expect that there's going to be problems, so it doesn't come as a surprise. I tell them about the 20-50-50 rule. 20% of their time will engage 50% of their prospects, and 50% of their prospects will become their customers. But as you walk down that path, that 50-50 starts to turn out to be a pretty significant piece of the pie. You want to over communicate. You want to be aware of bureaucracy, and where your commitment. People do business with people they trust. Commit. Guarantee your commitment, and they will do business with you. Forget about pricing. Remember pricing models. In the past 20 years, profit margins have been cut in half because mediocrity has become the go-to, and the go-to currency is deep discounts. So you sell at a deeper discount, you make less money. And the poster child for that is an RFP, or a request for a proposal. You're bidding to be the lowest cost provider, which typically means you are the lowest profit margin, trying to do business with a customer that doesn't appreciate your value. I would much rather go to a brain surgeon that charges the most because he's the best and has the highest success record, rather than going to a blue light special in Tijuana and hoping that I don't catch some additional disease or worse. Not a question of paying for what you get, the question of paying for what you need. Think about this question. If you were starting from scratch and there were no hindrances, no obstacles, and no limit to your resources, if anything was possible, what would you do differently? And you can ask that question of your clients. And if you can say definitively, here's a suggestion, they will find a way to buy into it if at all possible. They will find a way to fund it. And at the very least, you will be able to establish yourself as a different kind of supplier. So the questions that I always ask, what does your client want? What does your client need? What does your client value? And what does your client expect? At the end of every day, your clients want better results and better outcomes. It's that simple. Better results, better outcomes. And their power resides in their level of contentment that you've provided. And if you position or distinguish yourself as someone that turns lemons into lemonade, if you position yourself as a solution provider and not a product or service seller, more than likely, they will try to do business with you. Ask yourself, what's the biggest or best innovative solution you've come up with last year? Ask yourself, what product or service should we eliminate it if we're concerned about the dead weight? And then ask yourself, how are we going to create a reward system to support change within the organization? Remember, I said earlier, implement from the bottom up or from the top down. Either way works depending on the culture of the organization. But everybody wants recognition. Everybody wants to be rewarded. So get the resistance out in the open. Explain the know-how needed to implement your lemonade process. Track the behavior and measure the results. And make sure that you are moving faster than the people that resisted you or are holding on to their business as usual solution. Here's a quick example of pricing models that fly in the face of lowering price without lowering perception. You can buy bulk coffee for 10 cents. You can buy coffee beans and grind them up yourself for 25 cents. You could go to the old-fashioned coffee bar or diner and probably still get a cup of coffee for $1.50. But the truth of the matter is we want a barista to make our macchiato, my caramel, my chai, my double chocolate chip coffee. And for that, I'll pay $4.75. How did we get from 10 cents a cup to $4.75 a cup? How? And more importantly, why? So as those questions have been asked, new companies, new opportunities have come up, including Argo Tea, saying, let's take the coffee model and apply it to tea. Fancy schmancy home coffee makers and espresso makers. And then free coffee at McDonald's launched their coffee. So during the days that they launched free coffee, Starbucks sales dropped off. And if the McDonald's coffee was not good, people would have returned to Starbucks. But what McDonald's didn't realize or replicate is the experience. Starbucks has an experience. McDonald's doesn't. So at McDonald's, it's strictly price value. And at Starbucks, it's price experience value. So the answer to turning lemons into lemonade is very simple. You turn success into opportunities because you've been able to turn a problem around and turn lemons into lemonade. Remember, today's consumers more demanding, but less loyal. They want to trust whomever they're buying from. They want to be in control of that relationship. People buy from people they trust. And if you build trust, price is not an issue. But think about it. What's your next move? Have you looked at your own strengths and weaknesses? Have you looked at your opportunities and threats? Do you connect with your strengths? Do you focus on the WIIFM? Do you understand that selling is a transfer of emotion? And do you eliminate or reduce the fear of making the right decisions? I question everything. And in doing so, the clients often identify the lemons that they have, and I understand how to turn them into lemonade because I ask them, what are you going to do differently tomorrow? They will obtain better results than you achieved yesterday. Ask yourself, are you willing to fail in that process? And are you telling your big dream to small-minded people? Remember, big picture thinking is doing more with less. Big picture thinking is understanding the end results first. Big picture thinking is putting your ducks in a row. Big picture thinking is being able to inspire, to interact, to innovate, to create change. To understand that your customers want the product of your product, not the product itself. And remember, if it's not broken, break it. Drive for change. Innovate for growth. Lead smarter. Think inside the box. And remember how to turn lemons into lemonade. Now, I know you're still thinking about my railroad car load of spaghetti sauce. After several days of trying to sell it to the consumer side of the equation, I developed a timeline. And I realized that the timeline started with the manufacturer. I went back to Chef Boyardee. I offered to sell them their product back. And then I realized that I had focused solely on the contents of the railroad car and not the value of the railroad car itself. So in my negotiation with Chef Boyardee, which is now American Family Foods, I sold them the sauce and the railroad car. I paid back the $5,000 that I had borrowed. I paid $5,000 to the insurance adjuster student friend of mine who gave me the opportunity because I wanted to go back more often. And I paid $5,000 to the manager of the freight shipping yard in Topeka, Kansas. Why would I give up $10,000? Because I saw the fact that there were multiple lemons and multiple lemonade opportunities, and I wanted to be the first one to be able to look at the next railroad car and make money from it. For those of you listening, think inside the box, but don't disregard the value of the box itself. My net, after paying all expenses, for less than 5 days of work, from the day that I bought the car to the day the wire transfer hit my account, I cleared $55,000. And while it might not have turned lemon into lemonade, it certainly turned a lost boxcar filled with spaghetti sauce into some serious money for a struggling law student. So if you're ready to electrify your organization, if you're ready to think about how you're going to turn lemons into lemonade, if you think that there's an opportunity that we can use and work together in a collaborative manner, if you believe that investing some of your time and energy into working with me to develop this concept further, contact me at 312-527-1111. Text me at 312-909-9700, or write to me at jfeldman@shifthappens. Once again, the office phone, 312-527-1111. Text me at 312-909-9700, or email me at jfeldman@shifthappens. Now go out and start turning lemons into lemonade.